All right, welcome everybody to Autodesk Virtual Academy, brought to you by your friends here at KETIV Technologies. First off, I'm Nigel Mbayak, one of the customer success managers here at KETIV Technologies. Today I'm joined by Brian Munkle-Punsek. Brian, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Today, Brian's going to be going over something that has been requested a lot by users. A lot of people ask us questions about how this process occurs, right? And that is, what do I do with all of my legacy data, right? There was a time when maybe we didn't use CAD, or there was a time where we got CAD and we exported as PDFs, and maybe those files aren't available to us, but we want to be able to edit them or maybe use them later. How does that still work? And so they've created a lot of solutions for that. Brian's going to be going over a couple today. There's certainly some differences between the types of PDFs you get, and I think we're going to go ahead and clarify those as well, because I know that's another large differentiator between how you get this stuff done. So without further ado, Brian, take it away.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Nigel. All right. So AutoCAD legacy data conversion. What do you do with, like Nigel was mentioning, with the maybe the layouts you've had before that was printed on PDF on sheets of paper, created before in AutoCAD, and you maybe don't have that kind of information stored in AutoCAD anymore, or you do have it, but it's in PDF file format. So the purpose of the webinar today is to save you time from converting those legacy formats into something that you can edit, so that you can save, that you can manage, you can collaborate on, like into DWG drawings. And instead of having to maybe create everything from scratch or putting a PDF underlay under, if you've done that before in the past, and drawing over that, I'm going to show you two other ways to go about doing that today. And it's been around for since AutoCAD 2017, which I'll get to here in a bit. So the other reason why we wanted to do the presentation today is to talk about the other tools inside of AutoCAD, including specialized toolset. If you ever heard of that terminology, there's tools such as AutoCAD Architectural, AutoCAD Electrical, AutoCAD Map 3D, AutoCAD Mechanical. The list goes on and on here. And if you are using AutoCAD Vanilla, just regular AutoCAD, for if you have electrical schematics, if you're creating plant layouts, things like that, but you're using AutoCAD Vanilla, I would definitely reach out to us and at least just ask us, hey, I'm using AutoCAD to perform these functionalities. Is there a better tool out there for me to use that maybe I already own? And if you own a subscription to AutoCAD, then you own all the tool sets you see here on the screen. One of them that we're going to go into today is AutoCAD Raster Design, which is part of the specialized tool sets. And Raster Design allows you to turn some of your scan data or some of the previous PDFs that you might have into DWG drawings. And I'll show you guys how that works here in just a bit. So, but first, let me differentiate between types of legacy data that you may have. And there are two types, either vector or raster. Vector are paths or sequential commands or mathematical statements that you have in your PDF, for example, that has been created with AutoCAD, MicroStation, Revit, Visio, or Adobe Illustrator, that creates these and stores these entities in these PDFs as lines. Now, these are kind of smart kind of PDFs. And these, if you have these as your legacy data, you're probably in better shape than someone who has maybe raster, because with the new PDF import tool, quote unquote new, it came out in actually AutoCAD 2017, but some of you may not know about it. You're able to import these vector PDFs directly into AutoCAD, and it will create the lines or translate the lines over to DWG for you. And we'll show that as our first example today. The second one is raster imaging. And these are either bitmaps or pixels that are used to store information. So if you're getting these PDFs or images from Photoshop from legacy data, PowerPoint, or maybe you took a picture of the layout on a piece of paper and scanned it on your printer, then it's probably going to fall into the raster images type of legacy data.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, like scan data, we're not talking about like 3D scans of stuff. We're talking about putting a piece of paper in a scanner, like a physical piece of paper in a scanner, and then making a PDF out of it from that scanning device. Um, so I know Brian had said like, hey, these things were created for the vectors, right? If the file was created in AutoCAD, MicroStation, Revit, he's talking about if that file was directly exported from one of those applications, right? So within AutoCAD, you can export as PDF, as opposed to maybe you created a layout in AutoCAD and you plotted it, right, to your big old plotter. That file's still created in AutoCAD, but it wasn't exported as a PDF directly from the application, right? It was like sent to your printer. And so something that gets printed, right, that would be a raster image because using a bitmap, or it's just some array of pixels that store that information. And we'll show you the difference between the two moving forward here.
Yep, exactly. So we'll be going to two scenarios today. Like I mentioned, the first one, bring in a vector PDF using the PDF import command. So if you have AutoCAD 2017 or newer, you can take advantage of this tool. So that's why it's important to always try to stay on the newer versions of the tools here. Second scenario would be taking scanned data that I actually used my own printer at home here and scanned a layout that I had for AutoCAD and converting that back into DWG file formats and objects and lines and things like that. And we'll be diving into the raster design tools inside of AutoCAD to take advantage of that. So we'll go ahead and get right on into it. We're in AutoCAD 2021. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in the PDF vector that I have as our first scenario here. So I'm going to just type into the command line PDF import, select the file option, and bring in the vector PDF that I have here. Now, before I hit OK, let's take a look at this window that pops up. So on the left-hand side, you can see that there's different pages. In this case, is only one page. The pages you can notice from this PDF import command that you could bring the vector PDF in. Then on the right-hand side, there's more details to it. We're going to go ahead and leave these checked as default. We want to make sure raster images is not checked, however, because we don't want to bring this in as a raster image because it is already created with the vector. I know it was created through AutoCAD and exported as a PDF. So we're going to leave this unchecked. And then we have other layer options that we have here. Since it was created in AutoCAD and exported as a PDF, it sent the lines into the vectors into PDF layers. So we can take a look at how it's going to differentiate that once we get into the drawing here. And then lastly, there's some other import options that you can import it as a block, or you can apply line weight properties. We'll go ahead and leave these defaults here and take a look at what AutoCAD will give us from this PDF. I will specify my insertion point at the origin. And just in a few seconds, we now have our PDF imported into AutoCAD. And as I hover over the lines here, you can see that it is recognizing them as AutoCAD DWG kind of lines. However, you might see that this is a polyline of the garage that goes around the whole thing and part of the house as well. So it doesn't bring it in exactly the way you'd expect. You know, maybe you'd expect this line here to be by itself, this line here to be by itself. So it's not perfect, but it's a huge stepping stone as to if you were to create this from scratch, or if you were to try to just draw over it with a PDF underlay, which is just putting the image in the background and drawing over it with lines. So if this is new to you, then this is going to save you a lot of time. And if you're already using it, then you are saving a lot of time, as you may already know. We're going to do some edits to this just to make it usable in our DWG here. And I just want to show you some of the tools that we can use for that before we move over to the raster design. So first of all, we have some of our text here. These actually came in as lines as well, and they didn't come in as text. So what we can do to change this to make this text, so we can maybe edit some of the notes that we took here, is going to insert recognition settings. And there's this window that pops up that allows you to compare the text that you have with the text that's already kind of in here by default. And I'm going to go ahead and just check everything for now, so it can compare with every text type that I have available to me. And then when I go ahead and select the text to change here and hit enter, it's going to tell me what was converted, which was all of them, and it's going to be the Romans font. And now, without having to do as much work here, it changed this to text for me. So now if I double click on that and I change, maybe the name to this to slate shingle roofing instead, now it's something I can edit and save in my DWG, which is huge time saver again, and pretty useful.
Absolutely. And so like just to kind of elaborate on what Brian had said with the text, if the text in your file that you've generated is SHX text or something that is super, super, super close, you can bring it in as text. If it's not, and it's just some sort of random font that you use, maybe I know certain companies use a very specific font, and sometimes this doesn't work for those people because they've used something that's, unique to their own company. So just something to keep in mind if you're trying to import text as well. If you don't do that, it'll like Brian had probably mentioned earlier, it'll come in as just lines, arcs, and circles.
Right, exactly. All right, the next thing I want to do is scale this. I had the option to scale it when I imported this, but I kind of wanted to save this for later so I can show you this tool here. So in the later AutoCAD models here, when we use the measure tool, you can see that I can just move my mouse around and it could detect where the dimensions vertically and horizontally of my model, which is pretty nice. But what I'm trying to show here is that the height of this is supposed to be 9 feet and 9 inches. And right now it's 1.21 inches. So what I want to do is scale this accordingly. So 9 feet times 12 inches is 108 inches plus 9, so 117 inches instead of the 1.2 here. So what we can go ahead and do, just use this regular AutoCAD command here and scale this up. And instead of dragging it manually, I'm going to hit our enter for reference. And I'm going to reference this point here to that point there at 117 inches to get my model into scale. And now when we go to measure it, you can see that it is indeed 117 inches tall now. And the last little thing I want to do here is, according to this polyline, oh, one more thing too. If I click on this line here and I take a look at the properties, like I was referring to earlier that I brought in with the PDF layers, we can see that the layer type is PDF_geometry. And that's going to be the same for the red lines, the turquoise lines, and things like that. So it has its own layer type here. But the neat thing is that it differentiates it for us instead of turning them all into one line type, which is pretty nice. All right, so I do want to do one more thing here to this polyline. Just one of the tools I like to use to maybe make the lines more as I would expect to see it when created is explode. So after I select that line and hit explode, now I can see that this line was separated from the rest of the lines here, and it might be in more accordance to what I'm used to rather than one whole full polyline. All right, so that's the vector PDF import tool. If it's not a PDF vector and you're trying to import it, it won't come in like this. It will come in, which is the second scenario I'm about to go into next. So what I'm about to import now is going to be an image I took from a scan from my printer of a drawing that was on a piece of paper. And that might be the case for a lot of you guys out there. I know I've had my share of customers who have a lot of legacy data that is from scanned images. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this image here of my scan. There's going to be this window that just asks how you want to import this. I'm just going to leave it slanted like this for now, just so I can show some other of the tools inside the Raster tool sets. So I'm just going to hit next, next, and finish. And as you can see here, I did purposely bring it in diagonally and slanted and things like that, just to exaggerate some of the tools here. But so now we have this image. This was, I believe it was a JPEG image from my printer that I scanned. And now let's go ahead and make some modifications to it. So as you can see, unlike the PDF import tool, you don't have the luxury of the DWG lines that came in, or the PDF layered lines, but you at least get the model in here that now we can go in here and clean up. We can first invert it. So you can give it the black background with the white lines. And then after you invert it, you have the ability to change color depth, turning this into the Bitonal color type, which will allow us to kind of get the background to be the same as the one in AutoCAD. And now they turned into these Bitonal type of lines that we can go ahead and modify. Next thing I want to do, since this is not right side up properly, I want to go ahead and use the cleanup deskew tool. So I'm going to click that, select my base point anywhere on the model here, and then I'm going to go ahead and select this, the ends of this line here, and specify that this is supposed to be 90 degrees when I'm looking at it regularly. However, before I do that, I'm going to turn on this tool here called Raster Snap. And notice I'm in this Raster tool tab here, and you can get that just by downloading the extra add-in for AutoCAD Raster design. So now I'm going to turn on my Raster Snap and turn on some of these snaps here, kind of like object snaps, if you will. And now I can go in here, and now you can see that there's this big square with these snap points that it's giving me down below here. I'm going to choose that point there and this point over here, and tell AutoCAD, hey, I want this to be, or I expect this to be 90 degrees. And once I hit enter, it rotated it properly as expected. So other tools, now that we have this Bitonal type of image that we can modify and play around with, I'm going to turn maybe this text into DWG first, because we don't have the luxury again of the PDF import tool, but what we do have is like a recognized text tool that we can use. I can create a little rectangular box here and popped up on this screen here. Let me drag this over, and it detected that, hey, we want section A-A to come into my model here. And there's different details that you can go into. You can maybe underline it if you wanted to, which it is. I didn't highlight actually the underline there, but it would detect things like underlines and dashes and symbols and things like that. So the better quality of the scan you have, the better quality of the easier this will detect. And if, let's say, one of these scan was a little smudged, it would give us green or yellow underlines or highlights telling us, hey, we think it's an O here, but it may be an A, who knows? So it would highlight that for us before we go ahead and hit OK. In this case, it gave us the exact wording that we're looking for with the dash. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And that actually happened earlier today where it just switched to a different screen. But there it is right there, the section AA that we created from this. And I didn't choose to delete this in the options, which I could do next time. But this time I can just go to this remove tool and just get rid of that bits and all imaging. And then just increase the size of this. But this tool is very useful. The text detection and translation tool is very useful for definitely larger paragraphs of larger paragraph of text that you bring into a model. If you have a whole liability paragraph that's for the model, you can definitely just highlight everything and tell AutoCAD, hey, I want this to be translated for me so I don't have to type the whole thing over from scratch. And you can go ahead and do that. And I just did that on this one liner here, but if you have a paragraph, you can definitely do it for that. Other things we can get to do to clean up this model is we only really want this middle drawing right here. We don't want parts of that were cut off and parts of this title block that was cut off and that part over here that's cut off. So I'll go back to the remove tool that we just used a moment ago, and we can start getting rid of some of the extra excess scanned data here just by Windows highlighting over them. So now we just have this to focus on. So next thing we want to do is we can tackle some of these lines here. As you can see, these are the bits and all lines. So there's a tool inside Raster design called followers polyline or polyline follower that you can click on. And then after you activate the tool, you can click on a continuous bits and all line like this one, for example. And what it does, it highlights everything that it thinks that they were trying to create previously in the scan. And once you hit enter twice, you're able to get a DWG line from that bits and all imagery. And although it's not perfect, as you can see at the corners there, that it's not exactly the straight line, it can get you to where you want to be a lot quicker than if you were to draw this from scratch in an underlay. So definitely something that to keep in mind in at your holster that this tool exists. And the better the scan, the better the quality of it, the easier, the straighter the lines will be and less editing for you. So hopefully that's the case for you. And just consider getting a good scan of it to begin with to make it easier for you later down the line here. So I'll do that a couple more times for some of these lines. Just click on the polyline, enter twice, polyline, enter twice. It is going to start picking up some dimension lines, which I'd actually rather just bring in later through AutoCAD. But the point of this is to get the main core of these lines here to become DWG just by the click of a button. Let's do one or two more here to finish this off. And then the rest are just dimensioned lines. So just not going to do every single line, but I just want to give you guys the idea of what this tool is capable of. So we can maybe now use some trimming tools to clean up some of this here, for example. And now I want to go into another tool that can help clean up your bits and all imagery here is the Despeckle tool. So you can notice here that these hatches maybe didn't come in as clean as I wanted them to. Maybe they're a little faint in the scan or in the original drawing. And I want to just create my own DWG hatch because that would just be one command to fill up this empty space here. So what I can do is go to cleanup, Despeckle. I can select everything that's in my drawing. and I can tell it, hey, everything that's 1 pixel, like this one right here, I want to get rid of. And all the 1 pixel ones are highlighted red. And once I hit enter, they'll get rid of those for me. Now I'm still left with some of these 4 to 6 pixelated items here. So let me just run that again. But this time I'll select something larger. So anything that's that has like 15 speckles. I might get rid of some of these other lines as well, but I already got the lines I needed. So I'm okay with losing some of that there. But essentially, if I hit enter, now I cleaned up the rest of those hatched lines in there. And now if I want to just hatch that, I can just use the regular AutoCAD tool. But before I do that, let me just close up some of these poly lines here, just real quick. Use the extend commands. Just check some of the corners here. All right, and let's see if the hatch command, there we go. So that one's as expected. That one was not as expected. Let me do that again. Hatch there, enter, we'll just finish that one. And then this guy right here, you just take a look. So that's the idea of it, is to, there it is to despeckle. Some scans, as you may already know, has more speckles in it than mine does. This scan that I have is actually pretty clean, without a lot of speckles. Like I think there was 1 speckle out here in the distance from previous, but I got rid of that when I did the despeckle. Man, I misselected there. Let's do that again. There we go. And we'll just do 1 more here, just to give you an idea. So we're starting to get a lot quicker and closer to the end result that we want to. There's other details, kind of like scaling, that we can dive into, like we did in the previous one. We can then after that, you can dimension it properly, and then that's when it turns into data that you can edit and make changes to. Whereas previously you started from just a scan data that you really couldn't do anything with except just reference it to the machinist or something like that. But now you can go in there and actually define how long, that this line is, kind of like how it is over here. All right. So that's what I have for you guys today. Go ahead and pass it over to Nigel. I think we might have some questions in the queue that we can help answer in regards to this.
So Michael asks, where do I get that raster tool that we were using? Brian, do you want to indulge?
Yeah, sure. So this raster tool I actually got from the website. If you just type in AutoCAD raster design, you can download like a trial, for instance. But that trial download is the download for the add-in for raster design. So you can grab it there. I didn't find it on my portal on my manage.autodesk.com. But like I mentioned, that if you just do the Google search for AutoCAD raster design, you can grab it there. What I could do, Michael, is send you the link to get there right after this, so you can have that ready to go.
Perfect. And then another question: if we have hand-drawn CAD data in like TIFF format, what's the best way to bring that stuff in?
If you have hand-drawn CAD
like pre-computer stuff.
Gotcha. So I definitely didn't cover hand-drawn specifically. Some of the raster design does go over it, depending on how clean of the hand-drawn items they are. But if you have a TIFF format, if there's a way to convert that into another type of imagery format, I know JPEG, PNG is supported, PDF is something you could bring in. I did play around with TIFF. I can't answer 100% if that's something that we can bring in, but I can let you know after, Claudio, if that is something that's possible. Sometimes it's better to draw some things as an underlay in this case, in the hand-drawn case, I would have to take a look at the data itself, and then that's when you decide, is it more worth it to kind of draw this as an underlay? Is it more worth it to bring it in as a raster design? So you have those two options there. Every case is different.
Yep. I have .easm files and .mi files. Those are files from other CAD packages. Are there something to convert those files without purchasing, say, Creo? So Inventor will take in a bunch of files that are non-native. Same thing with AutoCAD, it'll take in some files that are non-native, but like if they aren't on that list of non-native files, you'd have to find some sort of converter or use the original CAD tool to export as PDF. We've seen that a couple of times, but anything else to add there, Brian?
No, not necessarily. Like the files I mentioned, or the tools I mentioned before, those were the ones that I know for sure can, if they were saved as a PDF, are vectors. But the files that you're mentioning with the EASM, not too familiar with as much, but you can always try it. If you already have AutoCAD, you can always try to export those. And there's a lot of resources online for converting between different platforms. I personally would try to convert them to like a PDF or an image kind of file extension, and then go from there.
And Brian Kelly's asking, can you still use spacebar or enter within Raster like you can with AutoCAD to repeat the last command? Yeah, so all of those things are the same for Raster as they are for AutoCAD. So yeah, you can still use some of those tools that you're probably really familiar with to just redo the last commands and stuff. So
yeah, you have. I was in AutoCAD vanilla, AutoCAD 2021, when working today, and I was just using the Raster Tools tab. So you essentially are using AutoCAD still.
And I'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so to answer any questions. Does this tool come in the AC collection? So yeah, so if you're buying a subscription of AutoCAD today, or the tool set that you have includes AutoCAD within it, and your current subscription, you have access to everything in the tool set. So that is raster, mechanical, architectural, electrical, plant 3D, and map.
Map, yeah.
I think that's all of them. And all of these tools are for all of the versions of AutoCAD, the PDF import stuff, everything after, I believe, 2018.
2017 or newer. Yeah.
2017 or newer. So,
yeah.
So yeah, if you're already using AutoCAD today, you can just start using some of this fun stuff. Yeah. Anything else you have to add, Brian? I think that's everything that we have for questions.
Yeah. And Michael, yes, the PDMC 2021 has AutoCAD, and inside the AutoCAD in there is the specialized tool set. So yes, you have access to this.
Sounds good. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, thanks Brian for joining us this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And absolutely, we'll see you all next week. Jeff's going to go over some Inventor Revit workflows, some of the stuff that I got included in 2021. So definitely be excited and stay tuned for that. So with that, we'll see you all next week, and have a great weekend, everybody. I guess 3-day weekend, everybody.
Yeah, Memorial Day.
Absolutely. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.